The movie begins with a woman named Tess on her way to a house she rented for a month. She arrived at the address by car, but it was dark and raining. Tess went to get the key from the lockbox at the door, but she couldn't find it. She tried calling the rental app, but the number didn't work. Confused, she decided to wait in her car until she figured something out. Suddenly, she saw the lights inside the house turn on. Looking through the window, she saw a strange man inside. She knocked on the door, and when he opened, she told him the house was hers and that she had rented it. But the man replied that he had also rented the same house, and his month wasn't over yet. Tess showed him the app, and they saw the address was indeed the same. They were both shocked, realizing they had been scammed. Something was wrong with the system. The man let her inside to rest while they figured out what to do. Tess, still upset, entered, and the man, also nervous, introduced himself as Keith. Tess asked to use the bathroom, and afterward, she looked around the house to reassure herself. Then she asked Keith to show her his rental confirmation from the app, and she saw that he wasn't lying. Keith insisted that she stay the night until morning, but Tess refused, saying she would sleep in her car until she found a hotel. Keith told her it was too dangerous to stay in the car at night because the neighborhood wasn't safe. Frustrated, Tess finally agreed to stay at his place until she could find a hotel. She called several hotels, but all of them were fully booked. Keith explained that there was a medical conference in town and every room was taken. With no other choice, Tess reluctantly agreed to spend one night there on the couch. But Keith said he couldn't let a woman sleep on the couch while he took the bed. Keith insisted that Tess sleep in his bed, but she told him she couldn't sleep in someone else's sheets. So Keith had to wash the bed linens and wait for them to dry. Meanwhile, Tess took a shower, and afterward, she sat with him until the sheets were ready. Keith asked her why she had come to town. She explained she had a job interview as a researcher for documentary reports and was meeting a well-known author. Keith started asking her about the author's films and revealed that he actually knew one of them. Tess was surprised since very few people watch that type of work. She told him the new film was about the city's music history and the founders of its bands. Keith replied that she should really be interviewing him, since he was one of the founding members of a local music group. Tess was impressed and began to feel a little safer, opening up to him more. She agreed to have a drink with him, and they stayed up late talking before going to their separate rooms. Tess fell asleep, but in the middle of the night, she heard her bedroom door creak open. Startled, she found no one there. Suddenly, she heard Keith groaning in pain, clearly having a nightmare. She tried to wake him, but he panicked and shouted at her. Scared, Tess went back to her room and locked the door with the key. The next morning, Tess got ready for her interview and found a note from Keith saying he enjoyed the evening they spent together and hoped to see her again. He also left her the lockbox code so she could return the key. Tess was happy to have met someone new. As she stepped outside, she noticed the neighborhood was completely run down, the houses abandoned, and the view unsettling. She went to her meeting and met the author, who was impressed by her and agreed to work with her. When the author asked where she was staying, Tess replied she lived in the Baltimore neighborhood. The author looked worried and told her she needed to get out of that area immediately, but Tess didn't take it seriously and said she was fine because she had a housemate and was happy. When she returned home, suddenly a man came running toward her, shouting, "Don't go inside the house!" Terrified, Tess rushed inside and locked the door. The man kept banging and yelling at her to get out of that house. Tess called the police, but they told her no units were available. Frustrated, she hung up and kept watch from the window until she was sure the man was gone. She went to the bathroom but couldn't find her toiletries. Searching everywhere, she eventually reached the basement door. When she opened it, she found piles of old tissues inside. Suddenly, the door closed behind her, locking from the outside. Panicking, she searched for her phone but had left it in the living room, and her house key was in her pocket. She tried the basement window but found it tightly sealed. Looking around, she noticed a rope sticking out of a wall opening. She pulled it, and a hidden door slid open, revealing what looked like part of the wall moving. Inside was total darkness. Curiosity got the better of her. She grabbed a mirror and angled it to reflect light inside like a flashlight. What she saw was horrifying. A hidden room with a filthy bed, a camera, a bucket, and a bloody handprint smeared on the wall. Tess was terrified, realizing something sinister had happened in that basement. Tess rushed out of the basement and suddenly saw Keith standing in front of the house. She called out to him, and together they managed to break the glass. Keith grabbed the key and helped Tess out of the basement. She was shaken with fear, frantically gathering her things, and told Keith what she had just seen. But Keith didn't believe her. He told her to calm down and went down to check the basement himself. Tess refused to follow him and stayed by the door. After a while, she started calling out to him, but he didn't answer. Worried, she put a chair in front of the door to keep it from closing and went down after him. She didn't find him in the first room, but she saw another door that opened to a staircase leading into a dark corridor. Using her phone's flashlight, she kept calling out for Keith. She discovered a hallway filled with cages, stained with blood. Terrified, Tess kept calling for Keith until he suddenly appeared. He told her that some woman had bitten him. Even more scared, Tess told him they needed to leave the house immediately. But suddenly, a horrifying naked woman appeared, lunged at Keith with immense strength, and smashed his head against the wall, killing him instantly. A little later, in another place, we see AJ, a man working in television production. He was driving his car, lost in his own world, listening to music. He got a call from his company's lawyer, who told him he was being accused of raping a female host on his show. The host had refused to work with him as long as he stayed at the company, and the lawyer warned him that they were taking the accusation very seriously. Even if he won the case, he would still be fired. One of his friends added that a magazine was going to publish the story the next day. Ajay was stunned, realizing his career and reputation were ruined. He met with his financial manager, who told him he was going to go bankrupt very soon and would have to sell his house and cut down on expenses. When AJ asked about his assets, the manager told him they would only last him a few months. Then the manager resigned, telling AJ to find someone else. AJ left devastated, feeling abandoned by everyone. Even the host he had hired was the one who accused him. He decided to travel to the city where he owned a property so he could sell it and use the money for his lawyer. He went to the rental company, picked up the keys, and headed to the house, the same house Tess and Keith had rented. AJ entered the house and found the basement door open, with suitcases left inside. He asked the company about the last tenant, but they told him the most recent rental had been weeks ago, and no one should still be living there. Ajay grew more suspicious. He searched the entire house, calling out for anyone, but found nothing. He decided to go out and met up with a friend in town, and they went to a bar together. There, his friend asked him directly if the accusations were true. Did he really rape the host? AJ answered. He had slept with her, and though she refused at first, later they had a relationship. He claimed he didn't realize she would consider it rape. Ajay drank heavily, and afterward, he returned to the house. That night, AJ called the host and apologized for what had happened, asking her to call him back so he could apologize again. Afterward, he went to sleep. The next morning, he woke up to the sound of his alarm and found Tess's car key. Suddenly, he heard noises coming from the basement. He called out to see if anyone was there, but no one answered. He went into Tess's room and started searching through her things, where he found her laptop. When he opened it, he learned her name from it. Then he heard the noises again from the basement, so he went over and started yelling that he had a gun, threatening to kill anyone he found. He went into the kitchen, grabbed a knife and a flashlight, and went down to the basement. At first, he found nothing, but then he noticed the mirror Tess had set up and the rope that opened the secret door. He pulled it, and the hidden passage opened. Terrified, AJ ran back upstairs and even searched online to see if basements counted as part of a house's square footage. When he found out they did, he decided to go back down and measure it, thinking he could increase the selling price. With a measuring tape in hand, he went down again. He saw the room with the bed and camera, then went deeper through the passage behind the stairs. The hallways were filled with blood-stained cages, but he ignored them and kept measuring. Eventually, he reached a foul-smelling room with a TV inside. The TV was playing a program about breastfeeding and the importance of nursing. AJ was disturbed, but continued exploring, until he heard a sound from deeper inside. Panicked, he dropped his knife from fear, then quickly picked it up again along with the flashlight. That's when he came face to face with the same terrifying, deformed woman who had killed Keith. He ran in the opposite direction, only to fall into a pit in the ground that closed over him like a cage. Suddenly, Tess appeared and told him to stay quiet and calm because she was there too. The monstrous woman came into view, holding a baby bottle full of milk, trying to make AJ drink it. Tess whispered to him to drink so they wouldn't anger her, but AJ started swearing and screaming in terror. The woman handed the bottle to Tess instead, who drank from it, and then wanted AJ to do the same. Tess tried convincing him, saying, She sees us as her children. We just need to play along. But AJ stubbornly refused to drink. The deformed woman grew furious, grabbed AJ and dragged him away to another room, leaving the cage open. Tess seized the chance and quietly followed. The woman took AJ into the TV room, where the only thing playing was the breastfeeding program. She hugged AJ tightly, trying to breastfeed him as if he were her baby. Tess tried to escape, but she made a noise, and the monstrous woman noticed. Tess bolted, desperately trying to unlock the basement door, but it was locked again. She smashed the small basement window and tried to climb out. At the last second, a man grabbed her by the arms and pulled her outside. Behind them, the deformed woman appeared, trying to catch Tess, but the strange man who rescued her, the same one who had warned her earlier about the house, saved her just in time. He told her, "That woman has been living here for a long time. You need to get out of this area before night falls." Tess replied, "There's someone still trapped inside. We need to save him." But the man answered, "Think about yourself first and run. If you stay, she'll keep hunting you. You're lucky you." She walks far until she reaches a station. From there, she calls the police and tells them what happened, but no one believes her, especially since she doesn't have the house key. They tell her they can't break into the house, so they leave her and go. Tess has no choice but to break the window glass and get inside. She takes her car keys and goes out to drive away. Suddenly, she finds the monstrous woman standing in front of her. She hits her with the car, then runs back into the house to save Tom. At that moment, Tom hears someone calling for help. He walks through the hallways until he finds an old man lying in bed. The man is so sick that he can't speak, only signaling for Tom to bring him something. Tom moves a table closer to him, opens a drawer, and the old man pulls out a gun. Tom panics, but the old man points the gun at his own head and ends his life. Tom takes the gun and is shocked to find the room full of recorded tapes of many girls. It becomes clear that the old man had been kidnapping girls and filming them in that very room, with the bed and the camera. Terrified, Tom runs out of the room with the gun in his hand. He then hears a noise outside, fires a shot, and is horrified to realize it was Tess. He picks her up and rushes her out of the house, where they meet the strange man again and hide with him. But Tom insists on taking Tess to the hospital, feeling guilty about what happened to her. The strange man tells them that the monstrous woman only comes out at night, so they must wait until morning. He explains that she has been living in the house with her father for 50 years. Their father kept forcing them to have children until they had children too. This cycle continued until this monstrous woman was born. He warns them that she will not stop until she finds them. He tells her that he has been living there for 15 years, and she never once came to him. Before he can even finish, the monstrous woman appears behind him. With her terrifying strength, she rips his arm off with her bare hands. Tom runs away quickly, leaving Tess behind, and she tries to follow him. They end up at a dead end, and suddenly, they notice a staircase. Tom climbs all the way up, but finds no exit. The monstrous woman gets closer and closer. Tess reminds Tom about the gun he has. He tries to pull it out, but in his panic, he drops it down to the street. The monstrous woman keeps coming closer. Tom tells Tess he has no other choice. Someone has to distract her so he can escape. He grabs Tess and throws her off the ledge, hoping the monster will jump after her. And indeed, the monstrous woman leaps right after Tess. Tom rushes to run away, but Tess lands on top of the monster, and he notices Tess is still breathing. He quickly picks her up and apologizes for what he did. Suddenly, the monstrous woman wakes up again and kills Tom. She then comes to Tess and starts crying over her because she sees Tess's wound and thinks of her as her own daughter. But Tess knows that the monster will never let her go and would keep her trapped forever. At that moment, she finds Tom's gun beside her. She grabs it and finally kills the monstrous mother. Tess manages to escape that cursed place, and she lives on. And here we've reached the end of the movie. Hope you enjoyed the summary. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.